My name is Drew, and I'm the Aspiring Master, and welcome to the Aspiring Master Presents. This is a show where we talk about the meanings, misunderstandings, and insights about the important words that we use and misuse on a daily basis. Really understanding what we're truly meaning when we talk allows us to convey that meaning and be more understood when we're communicating with others. This not only allows us clearer communication so we can get what we need quicker and with less stress, but also allows us to understand ourselves in more depth than we thought possible. Today on our show, we have our special guest, my wife, Talia Wilson, who, as with myself, is an enthusiastic advocate for personal growth and personal awareness. Welcome. Today we're going to do the second part of our Love Revisited show. So here it is, part 2, Love Revisited. A friend of mine who he had some condemnational judgment on his wife for not wanting to drive in Vancouver, which is, it's a tough drive, and depending on if you're a nervous driver, you probably don't want to drive. But he used to have contempt for her. It's like all this contempt, like, oh, I can't believe it, you should be able to drive. And the truth is we don't know anybody else for who they are and what, and everybody believes what they're doing is correct. And I think that one of the things that we miss out, and one of the things that we don't understand about loving people, and when I talk about loving people, just people in general, is being able to accept that their reality is reality to them. It doesn't matter if it's like, I can't drive, I'm too scared to drive, or it's, I'm too scared to go out of my house, or whatever it is, that it is absolutely real to that person. Now, there are people out there, we've watched the TV shows that have weird ass people that are narcissistic, and they try and control everybody around them, and and that does happen too. I think it's more of a rarity than people expect. I think that they're really reading in a lot of the times to it, and they're all worried about what will happen to them.
Right. Well, I mean, the whole driving thing is weird because when I lived in Eugene, and I'd drive back and forth between, well, not back and forth all the time, but I'd go visit my parents, and it's a 3-hour drive. I'd have to drive through Portland, and I drive straight through. I don't go the 205 bypass highway. And most people who are from Oregon will not drive through Portland. You know, there's the Terwilliger curves. They think it's, scary. And no, I-205 is longer. I just don't want to drive it. And it's, I think that has way more traffic. Anyways, but the amount of people going, wow, I would never do that. And it's like, Portland's easier than driving in Seattle, for one.
Right.
Because if you get turned around in Portland, you can usually get back on track, where Seattle, you're lucky you don't end up in the other side of Lake Washington. But I mean, what I meant about the driving to Vancouver is we live on Vancouver Island, and unless you get north of Nanaimo on the highway, you're not going to drive that fast. It's about the equivalent of 55 miles an hour, unless you're speeding. So then to get on 99 and drive into Vancouver, and you're going way faster, and you're dealing with more cars. You have to make split-second decisions on, oh, this is my exit. Oh, this is where I need to go. Oh, this is, I didn't understand it till I moved to Vancouver Island, and then went home the next time and go, holy, excuse me, but how the heck did we drive like this? People drive like maniacs. And I showed you when we went to Medford the first time. It's like, watch this. We get out of Portland, we set the cruise control for 65, and people are going to go whoosh, on both sides, and they still do. Yeah.
Well,
because
I agree, and I think that having a fear is just fine.
Yeah.
But when I'm looking at my buddy who was talking about his wife this way and going, but he was talking about his wife this way, realizing what he was doing. He says, I realized that I had all of these judgments, right? In my terms, condemnational judgments. And I differentiate between judgment and condemnational judgment because it's really prevalent. I have a judgment, but I have a condemnational judgment when I'm telling you that you're wrong.
Well, I mean, everybody judges. It's just to the what level or degree that we do it.
Well, and the truth is what does it matter to you? I mean, the only thing that matters to you that your wife will not drive there is that means that you have to drive, right? Yeah. Which means that you're inconvenienced, and so therefore, now, where does love come into this, right? Like you profess to love this person that you're sitting beside, but yet you hold this person in contempt for her being herself and being afraid to drive, as opposed to being in a position of, I accept this person and I would love to be able to assist this person. Now, here's a thing about love that we talk about, that people talk about. Now, there's one of the definitions of love that we had here was blah blah blah. Yeah, unselfish, loyal, and benevolent concern for the good of another. Okay, so here's another version of love that I think people get incorrect. Because what happens is, if you say, oh, love is giving, love is sacrificing for the other person, because I hear lots of parents talk about this.
Yes.
Right? I sacrifice for my kids. I go out there and tirelessly work so that my kids can have food, and there's a whole bunch, and love as sacrifice. And I think that this is such a silly version of love, because I think that they're confusing something. You have something to say here. What?
Well, that ties into the whole unlived lives thing. You know, if a parent has sacrificed and not been able to, I didn't get to pursue that career, I didn't get to move where I wanted to, I didn't get to do this because I chose to have you,
right?
You know, and raise you. So then they put all this pressure on the child. You need to go to college. You need to do this. You should go do, because
I'm sacrificing all this.
I sacrificed so you can do that. So this kid is stuck trying to, you know, live up to some ideal that their parent never got to experience. And I think that causes, well, and they've proven it, that it causes so much trauma and ties into the whole, you know, I mean, why do you think some kids just cut off their parents? It's,
well, and I think this is the confusion is in that is they're saying, of course I love you. I'm sacrificing everything for you, because that's what love is, right? Love is sacrifice. And love is giving. Right? Like there's lots of people that say love is giving. And I hear a lot of religious people talk about this one as love as sacrifice. That's what it is. Love is sacrificing for another, because that's what I've been taught. And I can tell you that no, it isn't, because if you're sacrificing something, that means you are going without so that another can have something else, or have something that you think they need. Again, this is a judgment call. Yep. And it ends up, like what you're saying, it ends up is, well, I'm doing all of this for you, so therefore you should be doing stuff for me, which means that you should be doing better in school, or you should be, you know, like, I mean, whatever that transaction that they're talking about is. Because if love is sacrifice, if you're sacrificing something, then you feel like you're owed something in return. Mm-hmm. If I'm sacrificing, and this comes down to martyrdom to me, right?
Yeah.
I'm doing all of this for you. The least you could do is be quiet, right? That's not love. I don't think that there's any love in that, and when people are sacrificing. Now, the reason that I think that people get confused with this one is because I'll tell you, for me, this is me personally, I don't know if it is for everybody else. For me personally, when I am feeling that love, that joy, that gratitude, it's automatic for me that I would like to share that with you. And that means a lot of the times I'll buy things, or I'll give you kisses, or I will just say stuff, or I will say, hey, let me get that for you, right? There is a very giving quality to feeling joy and gratitude towards something.
Well, when you said benevolent, the first thought I had came to my head was Aunt Roxy and Aunt Jessie.
Right.
Because they were just so or like the loving grandmothers, very much that, where it just radiates off of them.
Okay, so when we're talking about benevolence, for those people that don't know, the definition of benevolence is marked by or disposed to doing good. So when they're talking about good in this situation, they're talking about stuff that benefits other people.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not necessarily what good is to a lot of people, but that's good in this situation.
But I mean, I think that would tie into what my first gut reaction to was, like, Aunt Roxy being the Grandma Hogan to you, and Aunt Jessie being almost like a grandma to me, and then my grandma, it was just like a radiation of love, and I'm going to feed you so you're happy. And
well, again, I think
it wasn't like it was almost like an effortless action.
Well, they oozed this. Yeah. They oozed this personality or this thing that came off them. Yep. And I recognized it the first time I saw Aunt Jessie when I was down at the family reunion. And she was sisters with my, Roxy was her sister, whom I called Grandma Hogan. Now, I had never been I had never had any contact with the rest of the family. I did not know that there was other people that held that. Now, Roxy was extremely what we would call benevolent. That it just emanated from them. Mm-hmm. But here's the catcher. And one of the reasons that my definition is acceptance around love, acceptance without judgmental condemnation, is they were that. Mm-hmm. They totally accepted everybody as whoever they were, whoever they showed up as. Yeah. And they were able to really connect with the joy and gratitude around life itself to the point where they exuded it.
Yeah. And Aunt Jessie very much was like that. Because I grew up with my grandmother, my dad's mom, playing favorites with the grandkids. Yeah. So it was very difficult to be around that part of the family. But Aunt Jessie was like I said, she was more like a grandmother to me. And because she didn't play favorites. She loved, because she wasn't married. She was an old spinster and never had kids of her own. So she loved all of her nieces and nephews and great nieces and nephews and great, I'm down the line. That was just her thing. And she was very religious, but she didn't push that on anybody either. She was just who she was.
Right.
And she loved people as they were. I mean, she was very
even though she was very religious, and when you were talking about this, a lot of religious people can be very judgmentally condemnational.
Yeah, and she wasn't.
And she totally wasn't. And I totally agree with that. And I think that when we take a look at my base definition of love, that it does come from being around people like that, mm-hmm. that I understand. And one of the reasons that, my friends like having me in their lives is because mm-hmm. they can tell me anything. And I'm talking about anything, the weirdest things that you could possibly think of, and stuff that they're grappling with, feelings that they would never share with anybody else, because I do not have the, you're bad for being human gene.
Right.
Right? And I think that comes from that incredible acceptance. And I've done a lot of personal work. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. I've looked at myself. I've seen the thoughts that I have, the things that I do for reasons that I do them, really understanding my grassroots of why Drew, right, does these things or thinks these things. Or sometimes you don't even have any control of it. They just pass through your mind and you go, where the heck did that come from?
I know, right?
Right? But it's like, and we're all human and we all live this life. And seriously, the first time that I was ever exposed to somebody being upset about their menstrual cycle, and I say that ironically, because I don't understand why anybody would be upset with stuff that their body automatically does. You have no control over this. And now I know where you're going to go with this, but in my estimation, because I'd never been exposed to it, I grew up with my mom and my sister. I didn't have a father figure, really. That menstrual cycles were just menstrual cycles. That's what happened, right? It's
Right.
like you didn't have any control over it. And if somebody had asked me to go to the store and pick up tampons for them or anything like that, it was, okay, no problem. Whatever, they're tampons, And if
Right.
people looked at me funny, I never noticed, right? I could care less. Because it's a bodily function, and I just totally accept that it's a bodily function. It's sort of like if you have diarrhea, yeah, it's gross and smelly, but it's not like you were setting out to have diarrhea that day. Like I'm gonna hold it against you that your body's doing stuff. Anyway, as you can see, I have some ironical thoughts about that, but I accept that. So my friends can talk to me about absolutely anything and not be afraid that I'm going to go, oh, you're so gross.
Using love to describe those things is awesome. Next, we're describing love as a state of being, right? So I am being love, I guess, would probably be the best way to put that. I look at this as the ultimate definition of love on what it is that we want to become or exude.
States of being are consciously or unconsciously chosen, and I think that's the thing that might not be understood by everyone. Because we can choose to be love even in the middle of unloving situations.
But here's the thing. Before we even get into that,
let's describe what love is.
Let's define it, right? Because we can talk about that till the cows come home. But what is love? And I think that my definition of love in this instance. So this would be my ultimate definition of the word love, right? What you like that, eh? My ultimate definition of love is really the acceptance of everything. And when we talk about acceptance, and when I define, because we have to define acceptance now. Okay, what does that mean? That means that non-judgmentally, just allowing everything to be what it is, without the desire or need to change it. Okay? No, wait, let me redefine that. Without the need to change it. So there is desire there, but there's no need to change it. There's no need to change the exterior of the world to be able to suit what you would like it to be. But just acceptance. And so when I say the word, Therese, I love you, that to me is, Therese, I accept you for who you are, and I don't need to change you. You are this person that I not only am I describing attraction there or like to be a part of my life, but that there's no need to change you. There is no need for me to be anything but what I am with you, right? Or you to be what you are with me. And that ultimate form of love, or that idea is, I'm not judging you for your stuff. I'm just like, you're good as you are.
Yeah, that's a spiritual love.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for me to understand spiritual love, for me, it also centers around understanding of my understanding of God. And I was raised in Catholics, and the term they used was, I was born in the image and likeness of God, which to me means that everything I am is ultimately godly. I was also told that God is all, has all, knows all, all of those things, which means to me, there is nothing that is not God. And of course, the ultimate word for God, they're interchangeable, again, for me, is God is love. That's all over the songs I sang, God is love, all of that, which means, again, to me, that there is nothing that is not love. or has at its source love, including that which we call evil. Because in our world of duality that God created, again, if one has any belief in God, but this is for me, in the world of duality that God created, the thing that we call evil was created so that we could more fully know this thing that we call love. Darkness, light, all of those things. So even this thing, and I had a very wise teacher who once said, Therese, those things that you are sticking on, those things that you think are not good about yourself, are the very things that you have to love. Because without them, again, you wouldn't know all of these things about yourself. And until you love these things, you're going to be giving them your attention. And you're not going to be able to turn towards those things that truly do work in this world, that you can take out into this world and share in this world. You'll be giving this your attention. So I understood, of course, in that moment what, the law of opposites, what you give your attention to, you're not turning towards that other thing. So love is an esoteric concept that involves understanding larger concepts, bringing back down to the original concept of what is love.
Well, I agree with you in a sense that that we do that. We actually do the larger concepts and bring it back down. When I'm talking about this definition of love, and I'm saying it's basically being able to accept everything. What I'm doing is I'm saying, okay, if we look at love ultimately, and what we would like to be or represent in our lives is we wish to be loving, right? And if we are being loving, then what does that mean? Well, that means that we are being accepting of everything that's happening around us, not having a need to change it. And when I say need in this respect, it's that I have an overwhelming urge to fix it, right? Because if I'm trying to fix it, that means that I feel that the world has to conform to something that I desire or something that I think is better.
Not necessarily. If you go with the definition of eliminate good and bad, but go with the definition of things aren't good or bad, they work or they don't work. If we're looking at, and that's Neil Donald Walsh, of course, if we're looking at the world through good and bad, then wanting to change something is a judgment. But if it can be verifiably looked at and it's working or not working, then it's an assessment that will take you forward into, and it's a noticing that takes you forward into something better. And your attitude towards its change is not judgmental. It's not working. It's not working for you. It's not working for me. And I can lovingly bring this person forward to something that's working for all. Again.
Well, the desire.
That's more love to
right.
me.
Well, the desire for change can be certainly when we're looking at the ultimate definition of love that I'm talking about.
The desire for change can very much be an expression of love.
Well, an expression of the person. And if we look at the ultimate definition of the acceptance of all there is, without judgment, okay? If we look at the ultimate definition of that, we all come from that no matter what, right? Like when we're looking at it, you can say, do I come from a place of non-judgment? Or actually, in this case, I would say non-condemnation, because we all judge based on whatever that we're looking at.
Non-condemnation, and okay, you can desire change without the requirement for it.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. So that would be, for me, an ultimate state of lovingness. I'm coming from love, because I don't need to change it, but I come from like there's no need or a overriding desire to change it, but there is a place of I accept this as it is and understand that if we as a human being, or if I as a human being, or us as a humanity, wish to move forward to, say, like we're looking at a place called peace, right? Which everybody is kind of after at this point.
Like, I mean, here's our problem as a species, I think, is that we don't have very many people, if any at all, to talk about the minutiae details about some of the stuff that everybody thinks is disgusting about our human bodies and about all of those things, that we have nobody that can accept other people for really being human. And I think that therein lies my bottom definition of love, my bottom line definition, my root definition of love, as acceptance without condemnational judgment. Yeah. Because once you do that, once you're able to get to that space where you can say, I love you, with that meaning, with that understanding, you, all of a sudden, people can trust you to allow them to be them. They don't have to act. They don't have to, like, I remember the first time that I got a friend that I didn't have to act with, right? We could just act crazy and be like, because he was really smart too, and we could talk about weird things that came into our minds, and we could make funny puns all the time, and we could, you know, do and have a mental playground that was so refreshing that I felt for the first time I had somebody that I could hang out with and just be stupid. And when I say stupid, I just mean, you know, incomprehensibly stupid, really. Would probably be the best way that I could describe it. And feeling that feeling of acceptance. And that's it. It was a feeling of being accepted for the first time in my life and just being okay with being me. Right. Instead of people going, oh, what are you talking about?
Oh my God.
You know, or what, like, how come you don't like doing this? Or, you know, or trying to have to play act in order to be able to be liked.
Like in high school. What do you mean you don't watch Friends? It's like, I watched what my parents watched, and we didn't watch Friends till pretty much the series was ending, you know? But it's like back then, I cared less. I don't know.
Well, but so when we look at the base definition of love, and it's not a transaction. It's not like, oh, I love you, now I expect something from you. I expect you to love me back. Or, like, I mean, look at all the meanings that we attach to love. Like you said, it's like all of a sudden it's like the first person that says I love you. Now the other person says, oh my God. Now they're already going down that track of we got to get married. We're going to have kids, and we got to go do this and do that and do this and that.
What I think the big thing is they hear I love you and they automatically think that person is saying I'm in love with you.
Right.
And then, no, there is a distinction.
Well, of course there is.
You know? And not just between people who are family members and people who aren't, you know.
Well, could you imagine somebody saying, I love you? And when I'm saying that, I'm not like talking about I'm in love with you and we got to go do this. I really like you, and I really love the person that you are, right? Yeah. I really feel this feeling when we're together. You know, it's really a cool thing. And if you could differentiate that with somebody so that the other person is understanding that you can communicate that. But the truth is we don't even differentiate between like that with ourselves. We don't even understand what we're saying.
Well, it's like most of my friends are guys. I don't go around going, I love you all the time, because especially if they have a significant other, that makes it very awkward. But it's like, no, I love all my guy friends. Absolutely. If it came up, I would probably say that, but I'm not saying that I'm in love with you. Right. I'm not, because I'm in love with, you know, you, and we're very happy. But it's still that kind of really high esteem and affection, you know. It just means I really care about this person. You're a really great friend. We connect somehow, you know, and I value that connection type thing. It's not like I'm going around going, oh, you're secretly mine, and if you get a girlfriend, oh, I'm gonna make her go away. No, I would want you to get a girlfriend and be happy, and or if you wanted one, you know, or if you don't, just be happy. That's all I care about with my friends. You know,
I know that people, you know, like, I mean, infatuation can happen.
Well, yeah,
people
absolutely.
chemically falling in love with somebody and then
Yeah.
having that infatuation follow them
Yeah.
around. I mean, that they're susceptible to it, and then when that that happens, they become obsessed. Now that absolutely does happen.
Absolutely, and I've had issues where it's like, okay, is this just like? Is this love? Or is this love? You know, and it's like, no. This is just a guy friend. Calm down. You may think you're feeling that, but you're not. You just really care about them. You really like them. You're not in love with them. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I think our bodies feel us feeling that esteem and emotion for another person, and automatically, oh, it's time to kick out the love hormone. No.
Right.
No, we like this person. We like being around. We enjoy the connection. We enjoy being with them. We care about them a lot. But it's like, dude, chemicals, calm down.
Right.
You know. So I think that's more of a physiological response. I don't think it's necessarily intended when we suddenly go, am I in love with my friend? Oh my God. You know?
I think that to a great degree, I can say we can talk about love and understand that we misinterpret love as like all the time.
Absolutely.
And we misinterpret love, the word love, as a commitment, right? You can love somebody, and you can even be in love with somebody without having that commitment. It's when you're in love with somebody, that longing is pretty hard to get around on a brain level.
Yeah.
It really does short circuit your logic to a degree.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing. Emotions are not logical.
But here's the thing. It doesn't if you're aware. Okay? Because what happened was when
I know, but how many people are aware in that
No,
stage
I agree,
of love?
but I agree, but I mean, if you are awake in yourself, if you understand that, if you have the differentiation, like if you watch the show, if you have a differentiation for it's like, oh, I just love this person so much, but then you go, I know that this is a bunch of chemicals going on in my brain, and so you, on some degree, have a little bit more control of what's going on. It doesn't mean that you're not going to feel those feelings. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get that dopamine hit, but you can walk into it being aware of what's going on and enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with enjoying that feeling of being in love. There's nothing wrong with enjoying the tremendous sexuality that can come with two people in that state. But you can also understand saying, hey, we are totally in love. We are not going to get married here. We're going to see where this goes eventually and see where we want to go with it. Because when this chemical is over, we're going to revert back to a lot of the stuff, the people that we were before the chemical started. Right. And we may find that we don't really like each other that much.
Well, and I think that's the thing that people, because they get so wrapped up in the love chemicals, the feeling, the good time, that in love stage, that they don't stop and go, hey, maybe we should talk about this first. Right. Because one of my previous boyfriends, there was quite a bit of an age difference, and so he was really upfront. He goes, yeah, I don't know how long this is going to last because, the age difference and stuff, but let's just try to be friends first and kind of see where this goes, and then at the end, let's see if we can still be friends.
Right.
And we actually, the in love chemical stage, we held back a bit,
right,
for a while, and that was rather interesting that we didn't just rush into it,
right?
And yeah, we ended up, we're still friends. We don't talk all the time because we live in different countries, but like today was his birthday, so of course I go and send him a message, that kind of thing, and if I were to be down south and call him, and I'm sure we'd talk and, hey, how's it going, type thing. It's like when for example, when Twitter was gonna blow up last year, and everyone was thinking it was going to get shut down there for a few days. So people were doing this mass exodus, and they were going, oh, how we got on this site, and because I ended up getting on Twitter because I was still friends with my ex, and that was, I think it's still one of the only social medias he's on and stuff. So kind of commenting on that to someone, and he comments back, and it's like, oh, right, I forgot about that. Yeah, that was cool, and la la la. And, if I don't see it, if Twitter does die, it's been fun type thing, So there's still kind of that mutual caring, I would guess, for each other.
Well, and I mean, and too, okay, well, we have to actually go into really, when you're talking about love, are we talking about caring too? Because caring does come along with some of that that feeling of love, I mean, that it's a lower ebb, but
if you're going to put a gun to my head and say, do you love that particular ex? I'd say yeah. I'm not in love with him. I thought for a hot minute that I might have been in love with him.
Right.
But no, but I care about him a lot. And I would say, yeah, I have a love type affection. But I'm not in love. It's not chemical. It's just, I think it's one of those warm, cozy type feelings where,
Well, and I mean, but that's, again, acceptance can be that. I accept him as who he is.
Yeah.
I accept our relationship as it is.
Yep.
Like, when you have, and when we talk about caring, right, do you care not for this person, but about?
Absolutely.
What happens? Well, when we're talking about, and I'm going to go back to this definition of unselfish, loyal, benevolent concern for the good of another, I think that more aptly describes caring than it does love. And I think that caring can come from acceptance, can come from love, and I think that they actually really do go hand in hand in this case.
Yeah.
I think that number 4, unselfish, loyal, and benevolent concern for the good of another is care. I care about you. And and that does come from acceptance without condemnation. I accept you for who you are, and that joy-filled feeling, that gratitude that comes up from that transforms. The expression of joy and gratitude is caring, being able to give of that abundance of feeling.
Well, and I think that caring, when you're either, if you're friends or if you've dated in the past, or even if you were just friends with benefit or something, I think when you get close with someone on some level, whether it's physical or romantic or friendly, you do get that form of, if you manage to stay friends and stuff, you still get that form of caring, and you can carry an affection for them, and it's not necessarily.
It's not sexual. It's
not sexual.
Like
no,
it's just,
no. It's like there's people I've gone out with and dated that I don't speak to, and they don't speak to me, and whatever. To each his own. There's other people that you've been friends with benefits, and we keep in touch vicariously. Wish each other happy birthday type thing. But it's kind of I would say it's more of a mutual affection thing. I wouldn't, but again, it can be interpreted as a type of love. Maybe not a romantic love, a friendly love, or whatever.
I think that, when they talk about romantic love and in love, I think that they're sort of interchangeable terms. When I'm talking about love, when I say I accept as, without condemnational judgment, when I'm talking about ultimate love, ultimate, then that is with everybody in everything. Right? So it doesn't matter what comes up, I can unconditionally accept you. Hold on, I need to complete this thought. But I think that to a lesser degree, we can accept the parts that we know, and maybe we know a little bit more in depth than most other people because we've been intimate with these people. We accept them way more in depth than just a surface relationship. So you have love and acceptance to that depth, right? So you do have that affection that you're talking
Right.
about
Well,
is the product of a love, right?
Yeah, and it's also a level of intimacy too.
Right.
Probably more
Exactly.
like mental, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, and if you do have a level of intimacy, it can easily get misconstrued as love, especially by the other person's partner or whatever.
Right.
You know, oh, you seem too friendly. It's like, well, we're friendly. That doesn't mean we're going to boink each other. I mean, give me a break.
Right.
You know?
Well, and I mean, truthfully, if another partner feels threatened by a level of intimacy, I guess, a level of love that they don't share or have,
Right.
then that is a problem in the relationship.
There is.
and
There's
not
actually
necessarily-
a list that I think it was Gottman
Yeah.
who put out. The list of how you can tell that you're basically having an emotional affair.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a list of questions that if the partner answers yes to any of them, the relationship is too intimate. And it's like, is the person's boundaries, are they asking questions and getting hit by a brick wall? Or, you know, do they not talk about the other person around? I mean, it's like...
Well, when we're talking about too intimate, again, it becomes, when we're talking about relationship, then it becomes a relationship of there's not truly acceptance of the other person. We're talking
Right.
about a relationship that says, I don't have your attention that I want.
Well,
And so therefore you're giving it to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
So the relationship is in danger of falling apart because there isn't the level of sharing that you want in a relationship.
Well-
That doesn't necessarily mean love,
no.
right?
But Gottman refers to it as a non-sexual affair.
Right. And I agree. And I think that on a relationship level, yes, we can talk about
Yeah,
that.
'cause
But when
what-
we're... Go ahead.
What he says was, if you think your partner could be uncomfortable watching your interactions with this person or be upset by the confidences you've shared, the closeness is dangerous.
Right.
And it's basically the person who's feeling this. Is the friendship hidden? Are your questions about the friendship discouraged? Have you asked for it to end and hit a brick wall? Have your boundaries been disrespected? Is
Right.
the friend the subject of fantasies during rough patches in the relationship? And it says if yes to any, the friendship is too intimate.
Right.
And I think that's the thing. It's like, especially, and this happens a lot with male-female friendships, you know.
Well,
that-
and here it is. You know, like when we're talking about that kind of thing happening in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship, I will guarantee you that the true intimacy of being able to be acceptable and accepted and accepting. That's a reciprocal love.
Right.
In order to be able to have love and on both sides, both people have to accept the other person for who they are. And what happens naturally when that happens, then caring starts, unselfish, loyal, and benevolent concern for the good of the other.
Yeah.
Happens all the time because you are sharing. Once you get down to that and you're accepting, she's accepting you feel not only as a human being cared for and validated, right? Nor so do they, and so you have this mutual love that's going back and forth. The absolute the feelings of joy and contentment and what was the other word? My brain is screwing up here. Joy and gratitude. Sorry. So you're feeling this joy and gratitude
Right.
that transforms into concern and good wishes and sharing. So that openness
Right.
that happens between two people that have what I would call that base love of acceptance without condemnational judgment happens. When you have a relationship like that, you're not needing it or looking for it anywhere else. Not that kind of
No,
level.
I
okay?
don't think that's... I think a lot of the times what happens is one of the people will have a friend who their spouse is not friends with their spouse.
Right.
And for whatever reason.
Right.
And then one of them starts getting judgmental toward the other.
Right. Well, I
You
mean,
know.
and we can fly into understanding jealousy on this one as
Right,
well.
right.
And I don't want to get too far into relationships on this.
No, I just
Because
I think the whole thing about what Gottman was actually saying is the person who's outside that friendship watching,
Right.
And obviously going, this doesn't feel right. It's about their validating their feelings
Right.
around it, not just the person who is friends with the other person, and it doesn't have to necessarily. I don't think it. You said non-sexual affair,
Right.
but it's like I don't even think there has to be the inclination of anything romantic.
Right.
But if you have an emotional connection with someone that you're pushing your partner kind of away from,
Well,
you're gonna not only edit and then just tell them, okay, they got to live with it. You're not only validating their feelings, you're validating their boundaries.
Because we're so afraid that if we let this go, we will lose the feeling that we have around this person.
Or that person will lose their feeling for us.
Yeah, exactly. And
which is probably even more primary, because that's part of that social
need for connection. Yeah.
The need for, and there are healthy ways to have that connection and not so healthy ways to have that connection. The connection has to be there by a very thin string. It can't be a rope tied around your neck.
Here, I was talking about initially that we get love confused with fear, right? And that's, I think, the biggest one. I think
and that's what it's, that fear that turns things into the trade relationship that's been referred to in books. In order to fill our fear holes, we seek out someone who can give us things instead of seek out someone to whom we can give ourselves.
Well, and this goes back into that ultimate definition of love, which is not about giving and receiving. And it's just about accepting, and I think that we should add being full, because when you're full, there's no need, right?
When we're talking about love, and I'm talking about how it's used and how it's not used, with whom, by whom, I think that we've got to go back and say we use love to describe something that we like a lot. And I think that in relationship to one another, and it can be friendships, it can be anything, we can get confused with like, which means being pleased. I like people that please me. I like people that I feel comfortable with and accepted by, and all of that stuff, because like does come with love too. But we get confused with the feeling of being liked as the feeling of being loved. And the truth is there's a difference. The feeling of being loved is really feeling, and I think it's more of a feeling of not only being loved, it's feeling relaxed and the ability to be yourself and be open and be who you have always wanted to be, that your parents wouldn't let you be, that the world doesn't let you be because you have to play act, really being the person that you are and having somebody accept you. You feel as if you are being accepted and you're relaxed and you can be you. That base feeling is love, the feeling of being loved to me. The feeling of loving, on the other hand, for me has always been joy and gratitude. And it's a lot softer, I think, than the spike of being in love. It's way softer than that. But it is a long, encompassing, really slow, velvety, soft thing that can have wonderful spikes in it, but is more of a long-standing idea. So when I'm talking about being loved and loving, right, feeling as a feeling, those are the feelings that come up for me, right? And when I say I'm feeling loved, I just feel like I'm acceptable, accepted, cherished, right? All of the stuff that comes up with that, I feel like you want me, not this facsimile of me, but that you want me to be here. And so that's my feeling of being loved. My feeling of loving is that beautiful, expressive, the joy, the caring that comes from it, right? And so those being my bottom line, I go, oh yeah, of course people get confused with being liked. Well, I fell out of love with you. Well, the truth is, no, you fell out of like with them, right? Because they were pleasing you and now they're not pleasing you. I get it. Mm-hmm. Or we went through the romantic love or being in love, and I mean, dude, when you're in love, you can forgive anything. You become a different person. Changing your personality, you change your personality completely because it's so easy. It's like and here's the fooling of it is, it's so easy. They accept me because that's the truth. We feel accepted and acceptable mm-hmm. when we're in love because the high is so huge when that other person is in the room that, and with them and us, it goes back and forth. It's this spark. It's this huge thing that person, you say, like, I mean, remember when we first got together, you gave me foot rubs all the time. Now you barely touch my feet, right? But but it doesn't matter that you do or you don't, right? In the beginning, it was easy for you to do because you were pushed on by this chemical. It's easy. I feel like giving you everything. When you're in love, you feel like just giving, and yeah, I can conform to this. But later, when you don't have the push of the drug, you go, yeah, I'd rather not. My hands hurt, and my like all of these normal things come into play.
And my deformed wrist has worse arthritis than it did 15 years ago.
Exactly. And you don't have that huge amount of feeling to propel you to change the person that you are.
Like so I said, so it's a little tougher to do things when you're dealing with chronic pain.
Yeah, but I agree. But because the dopamine in that state makes that pain sort of go away when the other person is in the room, right? Like it just takes you over. So when you're talking about being in love, people literally change for each other. Mm-hmm. And I'm going literally, they change into being somebody who they're not really. And you know all those conversations that you have when you're in love, that oh my God, this person just gets me, because you can tell them anything that you want to tell them and they eat it up. Oh, I've totally felt like that, or you know, all of that. And it's not necessarily fake, but at the time, because it's real at the time, but when they get out of that drug, all of their judgments come back into play.
I don't know. There's things I've told you that I wouldn't have told any
I agree,
prior
but
partners.
I promise you that part of the reason that is because I am that guy, right? Yeah. I am that guy that really takes you as the human being that you are.
You're not a fake hologram?
No. I could be.
Well, you were just saying you wanted the real person. It was like all I could think of was you're a hologram.
Well, so anyway, I mean, when we're in love or when we're in a romantic love, we literally change ourselves to suit the other person, just as they change themselves to suit us. It's not something that we do consciously. It's something that we just automatically do because it feels so good to do it.
Some of it's conscious.
Well, I agree that some of it is, but I think most of the time it's not.
Pasta was.
Yeah. Okay. Pasta was conscious. But
yeah.
Wait a minute, that sounds really funny.
Sentient noodles.
Yeah, sentient noodles. So
no wonder they scream when the water boils.
And then all of a sudden, when that chemical wanes, our judgments, our old judgments, our old habits of going out and spending more time with our friends or going out and wanting to be that other person again come up. And so we, you know, as time goes on, we find that we don't really like the people that we're with because they used to let us go out and do our thing because it felt so good to give us our freedom, because that expression of being in love is very giving because you have all of this energy to give with. Then all of a sudden it's not okay anymore, right? Then it's not okay to go out as much. You need to be home. Now that we're in love and we've got a relationship, these are the things that have to happen.
We did the opposite, actually.
What? Well, I mean, no, but we're a weird case, okay? I'm just talking about typically. I know that when I fell in love with you, I was able to really enjoy being in love with you because I knew it for what it was, right? You and I said to you, I said, let's come up and let's try working with this. We'll see if it works. And it may not, but let's check it out. We give it the opportunity to do it. And it ended up working tremendously well for us because of our personalities are very similar.
I remember talking to my mom the next day and she goes, so, how's it going? Good. She's like, it's a done deal? I go, yep. That quick? I'm like, yep. It was that quick.
Yeah. And so being in love actually just changes people. It changes them. It really does. Yeah. And it's not what I would say is true, deep acceptance. It's a fake acceptance. I think it's a fake dip.
Well, and I mean, we had an advantage where we already knew each other too.
Yes.
So we kind of skipped over some of the introductory stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
But here's the experience that I see most everybody else have. Okay. Is they fall in love. And of course, our society says when you're in love, you get married, you have children, right? Well, that's what the dopamine chemicals want us to do too.
Yeah, so, yeah, absolutely.
You know, and again, people will literally change themselves in order to be able to conform to whatever the other person wants. And we find it easy to do with that kind of chemical bouncing through our system. And then when the chemical wears off, we look around and we say, oh, well, this isn't as great as it used to be. And, you know, I find people going, oh, well, I fell out of love with you. Well, no, I think that you fell out of the chemical, right? I think that you fell out of being that pleased by this person, and you don't know how to be able to reproduce some of that. And I don't know if it's a thing that you can reproduce. I mean, there's lots of good books out there that people go, well, if you're in a relationship, you can, you know, do a date night, you can do this, you can do that. I mean, and those things are absolutely necessary. You have kids, things that take up your time that you can't connect because you don't have that chemical to push you into it. Yes.
Well, and a lot of our media pushes the idea of we need to be spontaneous. We need to be able to read cues. We need to be able to figure out, a guy should just know that his wife wants flowers and chocolates on her birthday or something like that. It's no, whatever. Your partner's not a mind reader for one.
Well, again, communication is a huge key to this.
And there's nothing wrong with scheduling a date or intimate relations or a foot rub or whatever.
Right.
Because, like, some
Speaking
people are
of which, later tonight, I would like to schedule we were talking about foot rubs. Foot rubs? I would like to schedule one of those.
You can rub my back because it's been killing me.